Hello, everyone, and welcome to Body Bags. I'll be your reviewer for today. I'm Lonnie from Terror and Tats, and yeah, you already know that this week is theme week. It's love horror, and this was all my bright idea. I don't know, it just came to me. It's like I figure it's February, it's the month of Valentine's, the month of love. So why not do horror movies, review horror movies where they have basically a love story involved in them. And the one that I chose is pretty much one of the original love horror stories. It's not the original adaptation of it. It's not the Lon Chaney version, but this is was it the 1998, I believe it is, Dario Argento version of Phantom of the Opera, starring Julian Sands and my Italian horror crush, Ozzy Argento. And right off the bat, I gotta be honest with you, this whole mask thing, that's bull. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you, because, yeah, I mean, here, if you look, I mean, that's Julian Sands as the Phantom there. He doesn't look, he's not disfigured, he's not, wearing a mask or anything like that. If anything, like, this is probably the most buff Julian Sands has ever looked, plus with the long, the long blonde hair. He looks much more like the kind of model you would see on the cover of a Harlequin romance novel than, an actual Phantom of the Opera. But loosely based on Gaston Leroux's 1910 novel, The Phantom of the Opera. Um, yeah, so Julian Sands plays the Phantom, and Ozzy Argento plays Christine. And if you know the Phantom of the Opera, the story is kind of similar, but Argento did take liberties with the story. So yeah, like that's one of the biggest things you're gonna learn right up front is that we meet Eric, the baby, who will grow up to be the Phantom of the Opera. The baby is abandoned, and ends up in the Paris sewers, and ends up being raised by rats. And you got to hand it to these rats. I mean, they're very strict about making sure you get your education. Because I mean, they put Eric through rats, man. Damn, they're gonna make sure. They put him through rigorous exercise, and that's why he's all buff and muscular and everything else. And he's speaks very intellectually. He's cultured. He knows about music and everything else. It's like, man, those rats don't mess around. They're gonna make sure that they're strict disciplinarians. They're gonna make sure you learn. I'm being a smartass, of course, but in the beginning of the movie, his character, the character of Eric, is raised by rats in the sewers and things like this. So years later, he's grown up, and he is now the Phantom, and he is still living in the sewers under the Paris Opera House, and pretty much anybody that goes in there. This movie definitely does have a bit of a slasher vibe to it, because pretty much anybody who goes into the into the Paris underground underneath the opera house, pretty much they end up being picked off and killed one by one. So the movie definitely has kind of a slasher feel to it. And so then we're introduced to our main character Christine, who is she's kind of like an understudy, like a backup singer in the Paris Opera. And at one point, the Phantom Eric, he hears her sing, and he thinks that she has the best voice, and he falls in love with her, and he wants her to become the star. He doesn't want her to be the understudy. He wants her to be the star. And so he starts making threats and sending messages saying that he wants her, that bad things are going to happen if she doesn't become the star of the show. And while he's doing this stuff to try to advance her career, she meets Raoul, who in the beginning he falls in love with her pretty much immediately, but she sees him more as a friend. And so as the story goes on, she's falling in love with both men. But then Eric brings her down, with a boat, brings her down into his underworld, and he's playing the organ. You don't get that classic scene like what you would have in the Lon Chaney original silent movie, where she comes up, pulls a mask, and you see his horrified face. He just, he's just Julian Sands, and stuff, and he's playing music, and he explains to her what his motivations are. Is that he wants to make her a star. He wants her to be, the lead singer, and everything else. And they make love, and so he sees that, kind of like that the powers that be are not going to, um, they're not going to abide by what he wants, which is to give, Christine the lead role. I believe the character's name is Claudia, I think. And so so he decides to go and, drop the chandelier from the ceiling. We've seen this in multiple versions of Phantom of the Opera before, but he does this to let them know, hey, I'm not messing around. My threats are valid here. Either do what I want or else. And so, he goes and does this, and then, um, he goes to Christine, and that is one thing that's kind of weird. It's like when Ozzy Argento ends up acting in her father's movies, a lot of times she gets raped a lot, and that's kind of unsettling. We'll get to that in a minute, but anyway, so Christine is able to make her way out. She runs into Raoul, and the two of them confess their love for each other, and Eric sees them kiss. And so the night comes. She's the star of the show, and she she's singing and everything else. And the Phantom arrives, and he wreaks havoc on the opera house, and he kidnaps Christine and takes her down into his underground world, and and she it's kind of like, and so now Raoul, seeing that she's been kidnapped, gets help, and they go down to try to help save Christine, and before she becomes a victim of the Phantom. But is she going to be, or it's like, what's going to be worse? Is she going to be the Phantom's victim, or is she going to end up being his lover? So it's kind of a race against time to try to save Christine away from the Phantom. So I don't want to give away anything more than that, but yeah, I mean, this is definitely Argento's take on it, and it does. There are some liberties taken between, if you've seen, the stage adaptation, you've seen the original, all the variations of it. There was the Lon Chaney original, then there was the one with Herbert Lom, there was the Universal one, there was the Robert Englund one. So I mean, this story has been adapted so many times, and this movie, to me, it's kind of in the middle. It's not great, but it's not terrible either. It is definitely a step down compared to, a lot of Argento's works. I think he could have done really great with it, but just some parts are kind of unintentionally funny. And here's the thing, though, too. It's like, there is one thing that is kind of distracting is there is a lot of, there's kind of like a lot of kind of like CGI backdrops and stuff like that. You could tell they're really phony backdrops, and it's very jarring when you see them. And there is a little bit of a overuse of CGI in this, and you got to remember this is from the late '90s, and CGI was still kind of wonky. So, and that's the thing though too. Really, I think it's kind of hard. I mean, I obviously because the movie was shot in Italy, they couldn't. They're not in Paris and everything, so they had to kind of use backdrops. But still, I mean, they could have, with Argento and the way his use of setting and backgrounds and things like that, he could have, you think he could have come up with something a little bit better, and really not use the CGI so much. And this ended up plaguing his Dracula 3D. Just the CGI in that movie is not very good at all either. Julian Sands does a serviceable job as the Phantom of the Opera. I mean, Julian Sands he's a really good actor. He has a really good presence to him, but he's nowhere near threatening or intimidating as the many other actors who played the Phantom in the past. He's not gonna, he's not going to outdo Lon Chaney or Herbert Lom or Robert Englund or whoever. He's not going to outdo them. I mean, he's fine, but his it's just kind of like there's just kind of a lot of issues with this movie. Like I said, number one at the beginning of the movie, that he's raised by rats, and yet the movie, suggests that he's raised by rats, and he ends up being articulate, he cultured, romantic, buff. He's got kind of like the six pack and the abs going on. He's, got the long blonde flowing hair. He's not disfigured in any way. He's perfectly healthy for somebody who's been raised by rats. And I mean, usually you hear, usually if you hear like rats getting around a baby, they don't raise them. They end up eating them or biting them or attacking them or something. So there's kind of that, and then just like I said, there's some moments in here that are just kind of unintentionally funny. Some of the acting is a little bit off. Um, One of the biggest problems is there is quite a bit of Ozzy Argento nudity, and I know you're probably thinking it's like, well, bro, you just said at the beginning of the video that Ozzy Argento is your Italian horror movie crush. Like why would you have a problem with her being naked? Well, it's kind of hard to enjoy that. I mean, yeah, she looks great naked and stuff, but it's really kind of hard to enjoy that when the guy behind the camera is her dad. So, I mean, that's kind of always lingering in the back of your mind. So it's kind of hard to enjoy it. And then also, too, it's like, like I said, it seems like there's a number of, Argento's movies where his daughter usually ends up being sexually violated. That's not really something to enjoy either. Overall, like, I could see this movie as kind of a time waster. It's not great, it's not terrible. I could like, this would be a kind of movie maybe you could like put it on in the background, like while you're doing other stuff. But just it's really not the best of the adaptations of Phantom of the Opera. Um, they're so much better. I mean, of course, obviously the Lon Chaney version is the best, but even still, like the Robert Englund version is pretty good, and it's just this one kind of focuses a little too much on sex and eroticism and things like this, and just it just it's almost like it's hard to say. It's almost like if they decide to make Twilight instead of vampires, they made it kind of like Phantom of the Opera. It feels more like that kind of vibe to it, but I would say yeah, go ahead and but just that's but yeah, just so I'm kind of stammering a lot. It's kind of hard to talk about this one, but compared to a lot of Argento's other movies, this really does feel like much of a step down for him. And but I mean, I could watch it. I could sit through it again. It's not a problem. It's like, but it's just to me, it's not his best work. But it's watchable. I would just say the problem is you just have all these other you have all these other versions of Phantom of the Opera you could choose from. So it's like, yeah, this is definitely not going to be, on the top tier list of versions of that. But I would say, yeah, go ahead and check it out, and just, yeah, I'm sorry, just, not the best Argento movie, but still, just, anyway, sorry. That's pretty much about all I can say about it. But I would say, yeah, give it a shot. Just kind of, if you like his Dracula 3D, you'll probably like this one. So you got that going for you. So, which actually I don't mind that movie. Just I thought there were some elements of his Dracula 3D I thought were kind of interesting. The idea that not just wolves and bats, but that Dracula could take the form of other creatures. Like giant insects and owls and things like that. I thought that was actually an interesting idea. You just wish they really had a lot better CGI or at least use practical effects to try to pull that off to make it look a lot better. But it does have some interesting ideas to it. Just, could have been executed better. Same thing with this one here. Not terrible, just, has some good ideas, just could have been executed better. And just, But anyway, yeah, you do have, Ennio Morricone doing the score on this. So, that's always a good sign. So that definitely helps. But anyway, yeah. That's pretty much going to do it. So yeah, I thought for love horror, tackle one of the original love horror stories. There we go. So we did. So that's it. So if anybody took the time to watch this, I thank you for doing it. I appreciate you for doing it. I also hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave it a like. If you haven't already, go and subscribe to the Body Bags channel. We have a different reviewer, one for every day of the week. I'm the Saturday reviewer. We have great guys. Everybody's doing great stuff. Lots of fun videos. We got more theme weeks and years weeks and label weeks and all kinds of stuff coming up. So be sure to stick around. It's going to be a lot of fun. So everybody, take care. Have a good night. I'll see you later.